Hello and welcome back to the original Father-Son voiceover podcast. I'm here, Dad's here, and we've got a special guest, Scott Johanek. Did I say that right?
That is correct.
Awesome.
You're one of the few who get it right the first time.
Well, I watched your YouTube video, and that's where I got it from. So I heard you say it, that was, got to be careful with that stuff sometimes.
So, Scott, you're a local businessman, you're a real estate agent, a real estate investor, an entrepreneur, a business coach. Is that, did I hit all of them? Or?
Licensed general contractors.
I think licensed general contractor. I missed that one.
But otherwise, yes, you summed it up.
You're a man of many hats.
Yes.
We'll get into that in just a second, but just about your name, there was a long, I don't know if anybody has said this to you. How long have you been around Mazo now?
Almost a year.
A year. Has anybody ever talked to you about your last name? And there was a family name, there was the Johanek family that lived in Mazo for many years. I went to school with the oldest girl, Diane, and they lived down on Bridge Street, where the Murphys live now. The Murphys, they have the what is it? The window.
Yeah, Murphys.
He's a contractor, a window contractor type guy down there on Bridge Street. Is that on Bridge Street? Yeah, that's on Bridge Street.
It's the same street that the news live on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, on Bridge Street.
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, they have the last name, Johanek, and yours is Johanek. What is the ethnicity behind that? Do you know?
Czechoslovakian or modern-day Bohemia.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yep.
How many, do you have any ideas? You talk about you came from a 5-generation family farm up in Shawano.
Correct.
Any idea when your descendants came from Czechoslovakia?
I do not know. I've only heard a few stories from like my grandpa, like when they came over on the boat together, like he faintly remembers it. And I think he came over in like 1920. So he would have been 7.
Wow.
Because talked about most of the neighbors that are still in the neighborhood now that they started farms. They came in the Bay of Green Bay and worked their way over.
Okay.
So my guess would be early 1900s.
And in one of your videos, you say that Shawano is where in the state?
Yeah, right in between Green Bay and Wausau.
In between Green Bay and
Yes.
Wausau.
Yep.
And are there a lot of Czechoslovakian, Polish immigrants from that area?
Around us, there's a lot of Czechs and a lot of Germans. So I'm half German, quarter Polish, quarter Bohemian. So we have a lot of Polacks and Germans. So a lot of stubborn people in my neighborhood. It's really what it amounts to, is a lot of stubborn farmers.
I thought that was just for us Norwegians and Swedes and Germans down here. Yeah, I get it. No, you were a farmer growing up.
Yep.
You were a farm kid.
Yep.
When did you leave the farm? When you went to the UW?
Yeah. So I graduated high school in 2009. That's when we sold the cows. So I have one brother who's 5 years older than me. He was already at college at UW-Madison. And I was the last sibling left. There's only 2 of us. My mom worked out of the house and my dad worked on the farm with me. So like when I came home, I helped with chores, milk cows, things like that. And when I graduated high school, we just kind of said, there's really no way that he could do all this on his own. So I think it's just time to sell the cows. We still have the farm. We still rent out the land, have equipment. And, my dad's as retired as any dairy farmer will ever be, which means he only works 70 hours a week instead of 100.
Yeah.
Tinkering and doing different things. So. Yeah.
Go ahead. You were going to ask how many acres there were.
Well, that you can answer that question, but I was wondering what was the top number of head that you milked?
So the top number of head we milked was about 40. So we were a small family operation, about 200 acres, stanchion barn. And I can remember when we finally got like the vacuum system, it was the big deal. I only ever got to use it. My dad told me stories about milking by hand and, and they used to have the big bucket in the middle of the alley and stuff like that. But we milked about 40, had about 100 head of cattle between heifers and some steers we raised and things like that. So
now, did you have to, with being a farm kid, did you have to choose? Did your dad say, hey, now there's a certain time that I need you home to help out? Did you do sports? And if so, did you have to choose which sport you did, or was it a little bit
Yes. More? So the stipulation pretty much was that I could not play football, mainly because my brother's already in college. And he said, if you break your arm, you're not here to help with hay. So I played basketball and I played golf.
Okay.
And then I pretty much played more golf all through high school. I played a little bit of basketball growing up into high school, and then golf I started freshman year, and that's what I still play to this day the most. So
there's, of course, I mean, this was a big dairy area as well. All the kids that I went to high school with, most of them were dairy farmers. One of my buddies, Roy, his parents, the first time they had a week off was their 25th wedding anniversary. That's the farm, that's the dairy farm life. So when you say your dad's retired and working 70 hours a week, it's like...
100%. I mean, growing up, our family vacation was like taking a day to like Rainbow Falls when it was open, which is sort of like a little water park an hour from us. But like we never had weekend vacations. Like cows got to be milked in the morning, cows got to be milked at night. Very few times would we ever have somebody come and help. Like when my brother graduated and he had to walk across the stage, like I had to milk cows, but we had people helping in certain situations like that. Yeah. But it wasn't anything weird to you. It was just normal.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't really go to like the movies with friends until like college. And I didn't know that was a weird thing. I was just like, I just had to come home and I'd come home, I'd do chores, I eat, I do more chores, I do homework, I go to bed. And on the weekend, I just don't go to school. I just wake up, do chores, work, and do whatever we got to do. And you just kind of get used to it.
I wonder if that, so you're a pretty busy guy. So I wonder if that at all, do you think that had any correlation with how you fill out your schedule and stuff like that now?
I definitely think so. I mean, I don't like to be bored, and you just like to challenge yourself, and you always keep busy on a farm and try to tinker with anything you can. And it's just, kind of where your interests get piqued.
Yeah,
for sure.
How did you get into what you're doing now? Was that from going to the UW, or was that something that you saw somewhere else and you thought, someday when I get off this farm, I want to do that?
So my story, once I graduated high school, I went to UW-Madison, got my degree in mechanical engineering.
Okay.
I went to Augusta, Georgia for 5 years as an engineering manager for John Deere, designed tractors, managed some engineers down there. I'm the guy who kind of got sick of the corporate world. Didn't really like climbing the ladder. It wasn't for me. I think a lot of that stems from being on a farm, which is like the quintessential entrepreneur. They just sometimes don't realize it. And came back here, raised some venture capital, worked in the tech industry for a little while. That didn't work out. And then I said, the other really like passion I have is real estate. I became an engineer because I wanted to work with my hands growing up on a farm. I loved welding, building things. And I'm like, I want to take that into the world. And I did a little bit of that with John Deere, but then you just end up managing people, which was awesome. But when I came back to Madison and things like that, I said, I just want to pursue my passion of real estate, and started flipping houses because I like working with my hands and love working with tools, and just thought, I can kind of learn anything from reading or YouTube, and it's kind of never looked back from there. So that sort of steamed into, flipping 7 houses in a few years. And then friends start calling you up saying, hey, can you help me find a house or sell a house or teach me real estate? And you get connected with more and more people who love real estate because it is like an industry of passion, and you just start making connections, and here we are today.
Isn't it interesting when you grew up a farm kid? And I'm not that way because I didn't grow up. I grew up around all farm kids.
Sure.
But you really get, if you're paying attention at all, you just have to be handy.
Yes.
Because you got to fix things. You got to fix. Otherwise, you're always calling people. It's so costly. It's so expensive.
Yes.
So you got to be a carpenter. You got to understand motors and engines. You've got to be able to fix. Like you said, the welding and things like that. You didn't know you were probably growing up. You were being trained all those years to be an entrepreneur, and also to be handy with your hands.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, you kind of think it's normal because we had farms in our area. Like obviously I went to high school and had friends that lived in the city, as big as Shawano is. It's not really a big city, but it's just kind of one of the things you just took for granted, or maybe I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have as a younger person. And as you get older, you have a much more appreciation for that, like the family you grow up with and things like that. But it definitely helped me excel in engineering. The first 2 years is all bookwork. So I don't like school. So that was tough to get through, just reading and memorizing formulas. But once we finally got to like senior level classes, you design stuff, you build it, you test it. That's where I excelled and enjoyed it.
Yeah. So just real quickly, you talked about an older brother?
Yep.
Is that the extent of your family, your parents and 2 brothers?
Yep.
Okay. Got it. And, so you're, And I kind of wanted to walk through those a little bit and then get to some other more specifics. But like, for instance, you do real estate investing, you are an entrepreneur, a business coach, and a general contractor. What, like, maybe they change all the time, but like what percentage do you do of each? Can you have kind of a rough estimate of like, I do 50% of this and then 25 and 10?
Sure. I spend about a third of my time as a traditional quote unquote realtor helping people buy and sell real estate. I spend about another third of my time as a real estate investor and another third of my time as a business coach. That's primarily where it breaks down now.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't do any flipping of you as far as you doing the physical manual labor?
None right now. So I would put that into the third of real estate investing. Sometimes I'm swinging a hammer, but typically now I like to just hire out subs and coach people through flipping houses. So instead of flipping them myself right now, I have a couple people that were flipping a house in Arena right now. That's their first one. Cool. So I'm teaching them the process and answering questions and things like that. Because real estate's one of those things, like the best way you learn is just by doing. You have to make mistakes. You have to screw up. You have to buy the wrong stuff. You have to kind of get knocked around a little bit. And then you learn a lot. It's just, unfortunately, the way real estate is. You just have to do it.
So as a business coach, like what are some of the things you do? Is it mainly in real estate? Are you doing, or is it just a general kind of life business coach? Just
typically it's more in the trades and in real estate, insurance, mortgage, or like, I would say like trade craft. So I've had clients that were, underground axial boring companies, lawn care companies. Right now, I primarily work with like a larger insurance company out of the Milwaukee area, but really it's more focused around organization and optimization of your business. We'll just use this client as an example. Kind of came to me and said, hey, I'm sort of hitting the ceiling of my capabilities. I want to grow. I don't know how. So I came in there, organized, in this case, a lot of things digitally, hired a new person, optimized, automated a few things, and really helped them leverage technology in this situation. Other things in the past have not really been business issues, but more HR issues, where it's like, I'm that guy who sort of says what everyone's thinking, but nobody wants to say. Because it's got to come out and you just got to be honest and blunt about it. And like that company's issue was an HR problem where people didn't respect some of the management. And we finally broke down to that and had an open conversation about it. And, things like that, or, that's one of the major things I took away from John Deere. It's a very, very well-run company. It's very well respected. And, when you're managing 1,000 parts and sometimes $20 million of like their R&D spend and 10 engineers, it's like you focus on all these different stools of the business. And when you learn all that and sort of actually got to use it in a practical application, I can really take that from what I learned there and learned in real estate and sort of compile it all, because it's just got to be creativity and conversations is where you can solve most problems.
Yeah. And so as far as like an investment real estate, what does that look like? Do you like put up the capital, if you will, and then you hire the subs in to flip the house and then you get a portion of that? How does that all work? Is that okay
so my journey started as I was swinging the hammer. I didn't I had just lost a company, was sort of at like the bottom, we'll say, in my life, didn't have a lot of money to my name, found some friends that said, hey, I want to learn how to flip houses. I'm like, I can do the work. I have the time. Found another friend who had a family, put in the capital on a credit card, another friend who had a W-2 income, bought the house. I swing the hammer, didn't really have any capital to put in. We split profits.
I see.
Took that to another house, did it again where I did a lot of the labor, split profits. And now it's sort of split between active and passive, being I'll put some of my money into the house to flip it and hire subcontractors out, or now I'll invest to other people and say, well, here's the return I want. I'm also here to help you as a coach, answer the questions you have, so that way my money's more secure, and do things like that. So it's sort of has its progressions.
And as just the traditional real estate agent, I got on YouTube and looked at a house that what you would be the agent for on Bridge Street.
Sure.
And, growing up, of course, there was just the sign and you had to go have an open house. I know those still happen. Now on the internet, there are pictures.
Sure.
But you have, and I know this isn't brand new, but you have a photographer that does
like
this
virtual
kind of, this
tour.
kind of zoom in, and it really helps you see the house clearly. And you got the grounds there, and it's just alive, and you've got music, and I think some birds,
Yeah.
singing and chirping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What goes into doing, something like that? Do you do some of the production, or do you just say, nope, I just, kind of represent the house and then I just hire people to do all this stuff?
Yeah. Again, it's a progression. So when I used to, started, I took the videos myself, all the pictures myself, learned how to edit some of them, edited them in my own video editor, then had money to go hire people on Fiverr, right? Which I'm sure you guys can appreciate in the voiceover
Yeah,
world.
we do. Yep.
And then now I have a professional photographer that comes in and takes the pictures, and he's a licensed drone pilot that takes them, and he has his own team on Fiverr that edits the videos, edits the pictures, does that. And then, here's the final product. Do I approve or not? And then here's some adjustments I want to make. So again, kind of like real estate, my philosophy was I want to flip the house myself and swing the hammer because I know what goes into it. So that way I really understand what work other people are doing. One, you have a better appreciation for, and two, you can kind of call BS when you think it's an erroneous number. And you can say, well, here's why I've done this. Here's an example. And you just have the knowledge set. So, but he's a way better photographer than I can ever be because he's a professional. He does what he does. And his video editors are professional, top notch. So,
and he's a guy on Fiverr. Does he live in the area?
So the photographer lives in the area, and I think he said his video editor is in, oh man, I had a conversation with him, Sudan, I think. So he's not even in this country.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
he was talking to me about, he looks for these people who are on the opposite schedule so they can edit while we're sleeping. And he said, the other day his editor reached out to him and said, sorry, I can't make this timeline because they have rolling blackouts where he lives. So he's trying to raise money to get a solar panel so he can turn his computer on and it can run all the time. It's like, these are things that you just do not think about,
not at all.
So he was like, oh man, like I will give you the, I don't know, $1,000 or whatever it was for, so that way this photographer bought him this solar panel. So that way it's like he can edit because they have all these problems you just don't think about.
Yeah.
And these are people who just like, you got an amazing skill, and it's like, it sucks that you have this barrier to showcase it to the world.
It's amazing you can hire that out. I mean, there's people that hire out people to edit for them, their audio and stuff like that, or the marketing for them. They'll hire it out from some other country.
Websites, logos, copywriting, virtual assistant. I mean, we have, both Hudson and I are on Fiverr, offer our voiceover services. But there's just all sorts of stuff, and those are the types of things. And a lot of our clients are UK, Asia, China, Russia, Ukraine,
India.
all of these different places. Yeah.
Well, it shrinks the world.
Yeah, it does.
It really
does.
does. You're able to bring your skill sets to so many people so quickly.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question about Fiverr for you guys, if you don't mind. So I haven't been on Fiverr. Well, recently I was on it this month for, local citations and some logo stuff and things like that. But it was probably 4 months since I'd been on it. And I noticed an extremely large progression of higher end price gigs. Like last time I was on Fiverr, seeing a gig over $300 was kind of rare. And now I see ones in the thousands, 2,000s, 10,000s for like video editing and things like that. Is that more recent than I realized, or did Fiverr change rules?
Is that possible? I don't know if you remember when you went through that. Did they have were they like a Fiverr Pro? Did it say?
Yep.
That's maybe you can. I don't know. I've only been on Fiverr for a
my
year and a
oldest
half.
son John, he manages my Fiverr because I'm busy. But I know that they have different levels. Like I'm a top-rated seller.
Okay.
But they also have Fiverr Pros.
Okay.
And they start at a certain minimum amount, where everybody else can start kind of where they want to.
Sure.
For instance, like a voiceover talent, they could start at $5. It's kind of supposed to be $5 increments. And so they could start at $5 for 100 words or $10 for 200 words or whatever, and go up the scale. So I don't know what it is in different industries, like the video, there must be kind of a bottom line that they set for the Fiverr Pros. For the Fiverr Pros in voiceover, it's $100 minimum.
Got it. Okay.
And so maybe that's what you're getting into the Fiverr Pros.
Sure.
And you just have to look at the little banner below them. You can find people on Fiverr that are working their way up that are really good.
Yeah.
But you can also find, which we found, that people aren't the greatest because there's not a whole very high, bar of entry there. So I don't know if that's what it was for sure, but that's interesting.
That's what that's the only thing I could think of right away was the new Fiverr Pro.
Yeah.
Which we stay away from.
Yeah. It's a kind of a long story, but I make quite a bit more money not being a Fiverr Pro. And at least in the the audio side of it, it seems like there's not enough higher end clients that go to Fiverr, at least at this point, that will be able to pay that minimum amount. And so you might be better off just being able to kind of negotiate underneath that minimum amount.
Gotcha. So it almost sounds like it's agencies that are pro, like they're a company.
Yes,
Now
they
you
have
can
to be
hire 'em.
invited,
Sure.
just so you
Oh,
know,
wow.
where everybody else can, come on. And they either, like one gentleman that I know who's quite a famous voiceover talent, he was invited by Fiverr to be a Fiverr pro. Some people work their way up and then they're invited, but I don't know what the situation is from that end.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm sorry we don't have a tremendous amount to offer you, but maybe that gives you a little bit of insight.
Yeah.
Just the voiceover world. That's all we know. We don't
tiny
venture
little- our
out
tiny little-
anywhere else. Yeah.
So what brought you to Mazo? I mean, why? I know Mazo's not far from Madison, obviously, but what, from Shawano to Georgia, or to the UW to Georgia, now back to Mazo, tiny little Mazo?
The thing that brought me to Mazo, I was looking at a property. I was just about done flipping one in either Prairie du Sac or Mount Horeb, and came across one in Mazo, Maine. Honestly, never really heard too much of the town. Like, drove through this way a little bit, but I don't typically head out west that often. And came through this town. I was looking at a different property than I have now downtown, and honestly just fell in love with it. I was like, man, this is the first town I feel like I should have like a 6-shooter on my hip. Like, it just has, it has a history. Like, you can tell that it has a story.
Yeah.
It's just like, you almost hear like the saloon doors like getting kicked open. Like, it just has that vibe where like, this is cool. This has some history, and you can just tell that it's like ready to be alive. So I didn't get that property, but during that conversation, the person I was working with was like, well, this building will probably be coming for sale again soon. Like, are you interested in this one? And I said, sure, let's go take a look at it. Did that, and that's how I landed here. So,
well, we've got maybe about 7 or 8 minutes here, and I was going to ask you about you said when we contacted you, you said you called the Mazo movement.
Yep.
Is that just a term that you've come up with, or is it an official term of some?
I don't think it's an official term anywhere. That's just what I. That's just what I.
And what
dub it.
do you think about? I mean, what are you thinking when you say the Mazo movement? Is it to try to revitalize the downtown? Because when I was a kid, it was bustling. There was all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, cars.
Yeah, I would sort of just classify it as awakening the sleeping giant, right? Like, a lot of people have always said, come to me and said, Mazo feels like it's starting to wake up and be alive. And it's like, it's just to me, it's just the movement, right? Like, downtowns, a lot of people, I just see this in real estate and in the real estate industry, a lot of people are starting to move away from like the bigger cities. They want to sort of be local, but close to things, and, pay less, have good schools, whatever it is. And you're starting to see this just huge migration just in general, but Mazo itself like has just that small town vibe and that geographic setup that most places don't have.
Sure.
Like, you have so many, like, between the river and the Black Earth Creek, and then like easy access to Madison. It's 20 minutes to Middleton. That's not far. And it's just one of those things where it's like very perfectly positioned. And so many younger people are moving here, and just, they have a lot of energy, and they're ready to put it in, and they're ready to push. So the movement to me is kind of like, we have the snowball started. We have newer shops. We have, coffee shop, tap house going in, apothecary across the street from us, and everything you kind of need. Like, I was at the gym today that's across the street from me. Yeah. The only thing I'd really rally for around here is a grocery store, but that's me.
True. Yeah. We don't have
driving
much of
15
that.
minutes to a grocery store is sometimes frustrating, but
Growing up, there was, if you came out your back door of the 1855 coffee house, you came back there, just right across the street, there used to be Traeger's grocery store.
Sure.
And it was a big enough grocery store where you could have all of your needs, didn't have to drive to Madison. So we put our podcast out on what's happening in Mazo, the local part.
Yep.
And of course, YouTube.
Just a small, we did just a small one.
What?
Just the small, who we are and what we do, and then just a small clip from
but we'll make sure that that Scott's is on there.
Bad.
So Scott, as far as all of your ventures, how do people get a hold of you? They can just go to YouTube. They can go to type in Scott Johanek.
Yeah, so you could Google Scott Johanek. I should show up, but the easiest way is scottismyrealtor.com. That's my website where you can contact me, see some properties. Always revamping that, adding stuff there. And then Facebook and YouTube are both at Scott is my realtor.
And just spell your last name. I mean, we'll have it and we'll have links and stuff like that.
Yep.
But
Johanek.
Yeah, we'll have Damon put it right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll go like this, and he'll put it there.
That's why I just say Scott is my realtor. Easy to remember.
Yeah.
You'll find me out there.
We'll have that right in front of you.
Yeah.
See,
Damon will do
I'm
that
of
for
the
us.
old school where you have to spell things out because you don't have all these different things. So I'm on the radio still.
Yeah.
But now, just for a few minutes, what do we got here? Just about 3 minutes.
Yeah, probably
Just talking just a little bit about the 1855 Coffee House.
Yep.
Michelle is your partner, and you're an investor in that, but she runs that. And I know we weren't going to talk a lot about that. Hopefully, we'll get her on here sometime to talk about that. But that's a great place. I get coffee there once or twice a week, and you got food there. And anything you want to say about that, or about that building, or anything?
Yeah. So Michelle was, flipping houses with me. She quit her job as a vet tech about a year ago. And when we came here and looked at the bank, was like, upstairs, we want to turn into our condo. This is a really cool spot, and I kind of said, what do you think for the main level? And she was like, Mazo Maney down here needs a living room. And that was her whole vibe around it. And she's never ran a coffee shop before. She just started digging in. I said, I can build it and I can help you do stuff like that, because that's what I'm have experience in, flipping houses and stuff like that. I said, besides sort of a coffee snob here and there, like I know what coffee shops I like when I'm traveling around, but she just sort of took it, and, I taught her how to raise some money, talk to investors, build out the business plan. Let's look at, some of the finances and stuff like that. And she's just been crushing it and excited about it and learning a ton. And we're really excited to see that people enjoy it down there. And, some people always come in and ask, like, well, what's 1855? Which is the year Mazo Maney was founded, which is what it's named after.
Nice.
So
That's a
our
good
whole,
touch.
her whole vibe there was when she walked in there, I said, figure out what we want to do with this lower space in the bank. And she's like, I think a coffee shop's right. This downtown needs a living room for people to come hang out with, whether you're chatting with old friends, new friends, knitting, playing games, hanging out, or just grabbing a quick coffee on your way to work. And that was her dream. And she put it together, and I said, I'll just swing the hammer and build some stuff for you.
Well, you did a great job. I mean, for a guy that grew up in Mazo all my life and went to the bank there with my parents, and, went in and did the deposit myself when I'd make a little lawn mowing money around the farm or something. Yeah. It's nice to have the bank open again. Yeah. And there's enough of it. You still got the vault. Yeah. There's enough of it that kind of looks, you know, like it should, and yet it's a coffee house. So you did a nice job with that.
Well, thank you. That was 100% our goal. Was number one, we wanted to be able to people access the vault just because it's a cool feature. I mean, the tin ceilings and all the woodwork was phenomenal. I tried to not touch too much of that, where it's like it stays enough of the bank, has a nod, but obviously we couldn't keep the green carpet because green carpet and coffee don't mix very well. So we had to get rid of stuff like that. But like the coffee bar itself is actually the old teller stand. I just shrunk it down and made the pieces to fit to look like it. So it's like, we wanted it to still have the same vibe, but sort of new life, right? Part of the movement. It's waking up.
Well, thank you for being with us. Thank you for the energy you bring to our podcast and to Mazo, and we'll see you around town at the gym and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Did you like that video? Check out more from the original Father-Son voiceover podcast right over here, or subscribe to our channel right here.